Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Akinwande Success, and I'm excited to be your host for this webinar session. I'm an SDR at Secure Intelligence Limited. Our topic for today's webinar is provisioning cloud resources for your startup with cloud. But before we move on, I will be taking us through the housekeeping rules. The first is it is to notify you that this session is actually being recorded and uploaded on our social media channels at CIL_teams. And attendees can react or raise hands during presentation, and other engagement required from attendees is at the discretion of the presenter. And should you have any question, please use the Q&A comment section during this session, and we'll have them answered at the end of this session. Also, I'll be taking let's discuss a little bit about CIL. What is CIL? What is secure intelligence? A brief introduction about secure intelligence. CIL teams are solution builder. Secure Intelligence Limited is actually a leading provider of innovative cybersecurity solutions, and it's dedicated to protecting organizations and individuals from the increasing threats in today's digital landscape. We have three focus areas in at secure intelligence: the secure teams, the secure SEAL Academy. Now, the SEAL Academy is currently offering trainings for people that want to upskill or learn tech skills. It's offering trainings for them. All you just need to do is just reach out to us at Secure Intelligence. Like I said earlier, we are solution builders, and we apply technology to drive effectiveness, agility, and growth for businesses. We are positioned to help enterprise scale globally, and we have 4 pillars that Secure Intelligence stands on. The first is global mindset. The second is multi-cloud. The second is multi-cloud, and the third is agility, and the fourth is growth. Now I'll be inviting our speaker for today, who is Mr. Moshood Adams, who is a certified cloud engineer. Welcome, Mr. Moshood. You have the floor now.
Okay, hello, Success. Thank you for that warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation. I'll be walking us through the agenda that we'll be looking at today. We'll be looking at why cloud resources matter for startup, and once we are done with that, we'll be looking at understanding cloud resources. After that, we'll be looking at cloud cost optimization strategies, and once we are done with that, we'll be looking at cost management techniques. Also, we'll be looking at cost management too, and once we are done with that, we'll be looking at common pitfalls to avoid. And once we are done with that, we'll be looking at having a live demo where we'll be using AWS pricing calculator. And after that, we'll be looking at our conclusion. And once we are done with that, we'll be looking at having a question and answer section. Next slide, please. So for why we actually need cloud resources, why they matter for startup. Cloud computing has revolutionized how businesses access technology infrastructure. So I want to take us through have a brief background on what cloud computing is. So the definition of cloud computing is that cloud service providers, they offer computing services as utilities. That means for their servers, their networking infrastructures, they have so many IT services, right? And they sell all these services to their customers, right? And cloud computing has several benefits. They provide scalability, flexibility, and offer potential cost savings. So when you actually make use of cloud computing to actually house or host your application on the cloud, it offers you scalability. That means that you can actually modify, you can modify your solution in a way that will actually suit your business requirements, right? It's also very scalable. It is flexible, meaning that, okay, you can actually test it out, spend very minimal cost, right? You don't have to spend so much for you to actually test out your business offering on the cloud. So it's also critical for startup looking to minimize upfront infrastructure investments like I was saying, traditionally, what organizations is that they buy servers, and that is like very that's very expensive. So they buy servers and they put all the servers inside their on-premises, their offices, right? And they are very, very expensive. So when they actually like make this expensive cost commitment, it doesn't like offer flexibility. They can't actually like put testing out that will actually like cost them so much. They have to like engage engineer personnel to actually make use of all these IT infrastructures. So that's what cloud computing is actually offering. So I'll be taking us to the next slide now. So we're looking at understanding cloud resources. We have like types of cloud resources. Like I was saying, we have compute resources. We have where we have virtual machines, where we have containers. Also, is storage solutions. Also, cloud computing offers network capability, offer databases services, offers serverless computing options. And in the cloud industry, we have like key cloud service providers. We have Amazon Web Services, which is also known as AWS. We have Google Cloud Platform, also known as GCP, and lastly, we have Microsoft Azure. So these are the three major key players in the cloud computing industry. So we'll be going to the next slide now. So we'll be looking at cloud cost optimization strategies. We have several cloud cost optimization strategy we'll be looking at today. The first one is starting small with fee tier. So using fee tier offerings by cloud service provider like AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. So when you actually like open an AWS account, like you can actually like create it in matter of like minutes. You can create your AWS account that will actually like provide you a computing service for your business or your startup. So when you actually create this, it will like provide you with free tier. You can actually use your virtual machines. You can use your storage services. You can use your serverless services like a Lambda function. And also is a Google Cloud feature when you actually make use of GCP. Also, you can create your account on GCP and make use of their compute engine, their BigQuery service. I'm pretty sure that when you actually like you go on YouTube, maybe to watch videos, I'm pretty sure you have maybe as soon as you'd have seen Google advertising their BigQuery offering, right? And also they have like Cloud One, which is like a serverless computing service on the Google Cloud platform. So also is choosing the right pricing model. This is also a cloud optimization strategy. And for choosing the right pricing model, they have different pricing models on the cloud. We have like on-demand instances, which is you paying as you go. This is very ideal for startup testing the ideas. Maybe you have minimum viable product that you're actually still testing. You can actually make use of this. Another pricing model is sports instances. This is being used when you have like non-critical workload and discounted rate. It is actually very cheap when you make use of sports instances. But the limitation is that it can be taken away from you at any time. So when you actually make use of you want to like test things out, maybe what you actually need is just maybe test out your solution or your application, maybe for just 1 hour of just 30 minutes. It doesn't make any economical sense for you to like make use of on-demand instances, because sports instances are actually very cheap. So it is for what you actually need to like put in your application, and just for you to like test out your application to actually know how your application is actually performing, and you take it down once you're actually done. So that is another strategy on choosing the right pricing model. And lastly, for these strategies, you using savings plan and reserve instances. This is you. Okay, please let me go back. I'm still not done with that slide. So this is you committing for usage for predictable workload. This is you like committing this is you buying servers for a year or maybe 3 years. This is not something that you can actually use for just months. This is you like committing money to actually like buy servers for a year or 3 years. So if you actually do this, this is actually way cheaper than you using on-demand instances where you'll be paying as you go. So when you actually commit this is actually way cheaper, far cheaper than you using on-demand instances. So that is choosing the right pricing model. So that is a strategy for you to like carry out cost optimization when you actually use cloud services. Next slide, please. Also is optimizing storage costs. So when you use object storage tier, in the case of using AWS, Amazon Web Service, we have like standard for active use. We have like different storage classes. We have infrequent access. We have archive or backups. We have S3 glaciers, and the function of S3 is for you to like store your object. Maybe you have like you have media files that you want to like store on the cloud. You can actually make use of S3 bucket. But the logical sense behind you having classes, right, storage classes or tier, is because for all these classes, what you might actually be when you be needing your data, or how you want to actually store it might actually differ, right? Maybe for the storage, this you have to like use storage when you actually like you be accessing your files regularly for active use. For infrequent use or for archiving or for glacier, that is when you actually want to like back up your data. You might actually be accessing, you be needing to access this data maybe just once in a year. So it doesn't make any economical sense for you to like put it in the standard tier, because that will actually like cost you more. So when you want to like optimize your storage cost, you have to like look into the different storage tier for you to like store your data. Also is implementing auto scaling. So another strategy is for you to like use auto scaling. The purpose of auto scaling is to automatically adjust your resource based on traffic. And there's different services on AWS that can actually help you do this on the cloud, rather. We have like on AWS, we have AWS auto scaling for EC2s, and on Google Cloud Service Provider, we have a Google Cloud auto scaler. So let me give you a scenario where you actually make use of auto scaling. Okay, let's assume that maybe hypothetically you have like a transport business, and maybe on Mondays, what you normally like get is maybe just 5 customers boarding your buses, right? And maybe on Friday you used to have more traffic, right? Maybe you used to like have 100 people boarding your bus, right? So it doesn't make any economical sense for you to like go and buy a big bus that will actually like that will be good enough to like carry the 100 people, and you using that same bus for just 5 people that you normally like get on Mondays, right? It doesn't make any economical sense. For this implementing auto scaling, what this auto scaling is going to like do is going to like adjust your resource like EC2 based on your traffic. Let's assume that on Mondays, what you normally get is just the 5 people that are going to like board your bus, right? So it is actually going to like work for those 5 people, and when it gets to Friday, it will like expand and increase the capacity. That means you won't be paying for what you actually don't need. You'll be paying for more resource on Monday. It will actually like fit for Monday, and when it gets to Friday, it will like increase the capacity. So that is you implementing auto scaling. Next slide, please. So another strategy, cost optimization strategy, is monitoring and optimizing usage. So this is you using auto monitoring tools to track usage and identify over provision resources. So we have different services on AWS. We have the AWS Cost Explorer. When you also get to GCP, you find Google Cloud Billing Reports. On Azure, you find Azure Cost Management. A typical example is when you are on the AWS Cloud. We have a service called AWS CloudWatch, and when you actually make use of CloudWatch, you can actually monitor how your services or how your resources are actually like how they are actually functioning. So a typical example is when you use your AWS CloudWatch to actually look at the how your servers are actually like working, how they're actually like meeting demands. So when you actually use this AWS CloudWatch, you can actually look at your servers. Maybe they're actually like being over provisioned, or maybe they're actually not meeting up to demand. Maybe they are what your users, what the demand is actually like inflicting on all these services are actually very minimal. So that way you'll be able to know that, oh, this server is actually too big for what I'm actually like, what's the application I've actually deployed on these servers. Okay, let me actually scale down. Let me look for another server that will actually meet this demand. That way you'll be able to like carry out cost optimization. And also is adopting microservice architecture. So this is you deploying applications as smaller independent services for better cost control and scaling. So in some cases, you actually don't need virtual machines. What you actually need to actually do is make use of microservice architecture, where you have like you using microservice architecture in place of monolithic, right? So when you have monolithic, you have to make use of virtual machines, right, to actually deploy such application. Another cost optimization strategy is you using container and or serverless. So when you actually use serverless is actually like different from you using virtual machines, because when you actually make use of virtual machines, you have to like be the one to actually like patch, carry out the underlying maintenance, the maintenance of that virtual machine. But for serverless, you have no business doing this, right? Your cloud service providers, they will be the ones to actually like do anything underlining for you. What you actually need to like do is just to like put in your business logic, and that way it will actually work for your use case, and you have no business maybe patching that servers, doing so many stuff on that servers. Your cloud service provider will be the one to actually like do that for you. So for all these cloud cost optimization strategies that I just mentioned, when you actually engage us as Secure Intelligence Limited, we are like sources explained when she was like taking the introductory part of this presentation, where she actually explained what CIL is and how we actually like help businesses to actually implement all these strategies. So when you actually engage us, we help you like implement all these strategies, because we are AWS partner. We have like a solution architect. We have experts in the organization that will help you, that will take your hand, that will like help you set all these things up, that will make sure that okay, you're going to like have your solution set up in the way that meets your business requirements. So next slide, please. So we'll be looking at cost management techniques. We have different techniques to help you manage costs. So one technique is to set up budget alerts. So when you make use of AWS, you can actually set up budget alerts. So the way this is going to like work is that, okay, let's assume that, okay, what you actually plan to spend in a month is, let's assume $10. And when you actually set budget alerts, let's assume that, okay, maybe for the $10, we can actually set up budget alert that will say that, okay, once it gets to $8, please notify me, so that you'll be able to like know that, oh, I'm actually like going beyond my what I actually plan on spending for this month, right? So also is using cloud cost management tools. So when you actually get to all these cloud service provider that I actually mentioned, the major three cloud service provider, I mentioned the AWS, Amazon Web Service, I mentioned the Google Cloud Service Provider, I mentioned Microsoft Azure. So all these cloud service provider, they have cloud cost management tools. So when you actually make use of all these services, you're able to like manage your costs on when you actually have your solution. You are hosting your solution on all these cloud service providers. Also is implementing tagging strategies for resource tracking. So when you implement tagging strategies for resource tracking, you're able to like say that, okay, let's assume that you have an e-commerce application on the cloud. You can actually use tagging to actually say that all these services, they're actually working for my e-commerce. So that way you'll be able to like track, these are the services that are actually like working for my e-commerce. Maybe you have like another business that you have on the same account. You can actually say that, okay, for this other business, okay, let's assume that maybe you're actually like you have another solution on the cloud. You'll be able to like tag that solution to be different from that of the e-commerce. That way you'll be able to like know that, okay, for my e-commerce website application, this is actually what it is costing. For this other business, this is actually how much this all these services actually costing me. Fourthly is carrying out regular cost audits. Carry out regular cost audit and optimization. So like I was saying when I was like explaining you using AWS CloudWatch, that you'll be able to like track how the services are actually like interacting, how they are actually working. A typical example is you using AWS CloudWatch to understand the CPU utilization of your servers. You're able to like see that, okay, for this server, this is actually too much for my demand. Okay, let me actually like go to something smaller. Or maybe you are saying that, okay, your CloudWatch is actually saying that, okay, this server is actually too small for my demand. Okay, let me actually like go to something bigger. So when you actually like carry out regular cost audit and optimization, you'll be able to like track that. So these are the cost management techniques that we'll be looking at for today. Next slide, please. So we'll be looking at cost management tools. Like I was saying, I said when you make use of all these cloud service providers, there are several cost management tools on all these cloud service providers. So when you get on AWS, you find so many. based on what you're actually trying to do. There are several services that will help you like manage your cost on the AWS cloud. When you get to Google Cloud pricing, Google Cloud, you find so many. So a typical example is Google Cloud Pricing Calculator. And when you also get to Microsoft, you find Azure Advisor. When you make use of Azure Advisor, it will help you to manage your costs. Like I said, there are so many several services that will help you to manage costs on all these services. You might actually not really understand them because obviously it is not what you actually like do day in day out, right? But when you actually engage us, we all know about all these services. We use them for our customers. So we'll help you use them. We'll help you to like optimize costs when you actually engage us, because these are what we actually make use of. We actually follow best practices. That is actually what we do. So when you engage us as Secure Intelligence Limited, we help you like set all these things up, and you have value for your money, right? So next slide, please. So we're looking at common pitfalls to avoid when you actually make use of all this cloud service provider that I actually said. We're looking at over provisioning resources. When you actually like over provision resources, this is a common pitfall that you have to like avoid. You might actually think that, okay, maybe you have your business set up on the cloud, and you actually think that, okay, maybe in the next 5 months you'll be having millions of users on making use of your services or your solution on the cloud. It doesn't make any economical sense for you to like have a server that will actually work for millions of people, and you actually set it up today that you're actually just having maybe 5 users coming to your solution or your website or your application on the cloud. It doesn't make any sense. So you have to like I said, you have to like make use of auto scaling group, where you actually like set it up and it will automatically like adjust itself to meet the demand, right? And also a common pitfall you have to like avoid is you neglecting to turn off unused resources. Maybe you are still in the phase of you carrying out minimum viable product. You are still like testing out things. You are still experimenting on the cloud. You have to like turn off all these unused services, because obviously they will just keep on incurring costs when they are still in use. Maybe just like, okay, maybe you actually like deploy your solution on the cloud, or maybe you have your website or your application on the cloud, and you actually don't need it. Maybe you are just still testing things out. You just have to like switch, neglect, or turn off or terminate all these unused resources, because obviously you have to like be wary of course. So it is like a common pitfall you have to like avoid. So once you are actually done, you just have to like turn off or delete unused resources. Another is you failing to use pricing calculator when you are architecting a solution. Let's assume that, okay, you have an architecture, right, a solution that you want to like implement on the cloud, and you don't like use pricing calculator to actually understand the cost implication of using all these services. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's a common pitfall you have to like avoid, because you have to like use the pricing calculator to like say that, okay, this service that I want to use, how much would it actually like incur in the next 1 month? This is okay. Let me actually go to something else. There are so many services that actually like are working for each other, working for the same purpose. It's going to be on your own business use case, right? So you have to like use pricing calculator to actually like use it to like use it to know the cost implication of all your solutions, right? So when you fail to use a pricing calculator when you're architecting a solution, it is like a common pitfall you have to like avoid. So those are the common pitfalls I'll be looking at today. Please, next slide, please. Yeah. So I'll be taking us through using AWS pricing calculator, just like a quick demo to actually show us how it works. So I'll be sharing my screen right away so that you can actually see how AWS pricing calculator works. So I said I'll be showing us how to make use of AWS pricing calculator. What you actually need to actually do is that you should like just search for AWS pricing. Once you get to your browser, you will search AWS pricing calculator. Let me just put pricing here. And so can you see AWS pricing calculator? So once you see it, just select this pricing calculator. So the first link you'll be seeing once you check AWS pricing calculator is AWS pricing calculator, right? So what you actually need to do is to like select this pricing calculator. So it will actually take you to this page, and as you can see, this is telling us that AWS pricing calculator estimate the cost for your architecture solution. So when you have a solution that you want to like implement in the cloud, you have to like make use of this to actually know the cost implication of using all these services. So once you get to this page, what you actually need to do is to like create estimates. Just click on create estimates. You don't need to have an AWS account before you can actually use this service. So just like go to this, search for this, using this phrase that I actually like mentioned. And once it takes the first link that you see, once you click on that, once you search for those phrases or that keywords, right? Those keywords, right? It will actually like take you here. And what you actually need to do is to like create estimates. So once you click on create estimates, it will actually take you to this page and you can add services, right? So when you have an architecture is you like having different services that are actually like working for your business requirements. So when you actually engage us again at Secure Intelligence, we'll be able to like tell you that these are the services that will actually work for your business requirements. We help you to set it up based on the best practices. We'll like consider security, we'll consider cost optimization, we'll consider that okay, sustainability. We look at all the key pillars of AWS well architected frameworks, right? So these are the collection of best practices. So once you have an architecture, you have to like come to this page to actually understand the cost implication of using all these services. So when you get here, you'll see it will actually like tell you that you have to like search for location type or search for all services. So for the sake of this demonstration, we'll be using like a search by location type. And this is actually this is actually telling us to choose a location type, and you can actually choose region, you can choose local zone, you can choose wavelength zone. For this demo, we'll be using region. And for us choosing the region, I have to like tell us that okay. So when you want to deploy your application or have your solution on the cloud, you have to like take into consideration that you have to like house or deploy your region in a region that is actually very close to your users, right? So let's assume that okay, you want to like deploy your users are mostly in Nigeria, and you want to like host or deploy your solution on the cloud. It makes sense to actually like select a region that is very close to where your users are. It doesn't make sense for you to like select a region that is very far to your users. Like you selecting, let's assume that okay, maybe you have your users, you have like I said, you have your users mostly in Nigeria, and you end up going to maybe Asia as a region, or maybe Europe, maybe very far, maybe even South America or Middle East. That is very far to your user. For the sake of latency, because you having very low latency for the sake of your user is very important. So you have to like pick a region that is very close to your users. So for the sake of this demonstration, we'll be picking South Africa. But you have to like note that not all services, cloud services, are actually in all regions. The services that you see in Europe or in America, you might actually not find in Africa. So that is why you actually need an expert to actually like help you make all these considerations, because we actually know all these things. We know that okay, all these services are actually not in Africa. Some of these services are actually not in Africa. Okay, they're in Europe. Okay, how do we actually go about you having low latency for your users? Let's assume that you have your users are actually in Nigeria, and the service that you actually need to like use for your solution is not in the South Africa, the Cape Town region, right? That we have in Africa. What do you have to like do in such case? You have to like, okay, look at another region, or maybe you have another service that will help you to lower your latency. And there are also different other criteria that you have to like look at. Maybe in Nigeria, maybe it is against the law for you to like house the data of your users in South Africa. You might actually not know, but it happens. It is common. It happens. So all these things we actually like take them into consideration. We know about all these things. So that is why you actually need to like get an expert to help you make all this consideration, to help you look at all these things. So for the sake of this demonstration, let's assume that we'll be picking Africa, right? So I've selected Africa, and that is where AWS has its region, right? There's no region in Nigeria, so the one we only have in Africa is just South Africa, Cape Town. So I've selected Africa and Cape Town. So the next thing for you to do is to like find a service. Like I said, when you have your architecture, you have different cloud services on your architecture. We can actually like look at an example of an architecture. We can actually do that. Maybe if you still have time, you can look at an example of an architecture. You see so many services working together to help achieve the business requirements, right? So for the sake of this presentation, I'll be searching for EC2, which is a virtual machine for AWS virtual machine. So can you see EC2? And if you actually read this, this is actually saying that Amazon EC2 provide a wide selection of instance types optimized to fit different use cases. Instance types comprising varying combination of CPUs, memory, storage, and networking capacity to give you the flexibility to choose the appropriate mix of resources for your applications, right? So once you see the application that you're actually trying to like estimate, you should just select this configure. So I'll be selecting configure now. Okay, can you see that it is actually loading? So yes, so this is us selecting EC2 specification. So when you come down here, you see that choose the tenancy type for you to run your Amazon EC2 instance on. So for this, you can actually see so many options, right? This is shared instance, this is dedicated instance, this is also dedicated those. So for all this is actually saying that, okay, what your virtual machine that you'll be using, do you want to log on a shared instance? Maybe for your own business use case, you don't actually mind using the shared instance, you sharing your virtual machine with other customers on AWS, or maybe you actually like want dedicated instances or dedicated those based on your requirement. Maybe what you're actually like trying to deploy, you don't want to like share the server that you want to like use. You just want a server that is basically just for you, right? Although these other options will actually cost you more, but for your own use case, maybe you actually don't mind in using shared instances, you don't mind in using dedicated instances or dedicated those. So for the sake of this demonstration, I'll be selecting shared instances. So I'll be selecting shared instances. So that is for that. So for the operating systems, we have like different operating systems. We have Linux. So once you click on this, it will like bring out so many options for you. So maybe for your applications, you want to like deploy it on a server that has a Linux operating system, or maybe a Windows server. There are so many options. We have Red Hat, we have Linux with SQL server standard, so many options. So this is going to be based on what you trying to do. You have Ubuntu Pro. So for this sake of demo, I'll be selecting Linux. Let's assume that okay, the application that we want to deploy is going to be on a Linux operating system. So that is Linux operating system. So for your workload, you can choose the graph that best represents your monthly workload. Maybe for your business requirements, you are going to be having constant usage, or maybe you'll be having daily spike traffic, or weekly spike traffic, or monthly spike traffic. So let's assume that you'll be having constant usage on your servers. So we'll be selecting this constant usage. Okay, for the number of instances, maybe what you are trying to do is just to have just a single instance, right? And you don't actually need more than a single instance. Maybe you're still in the phase of having a MVP, right? If I'm correct. Maybe what you actually need is just a single server. So once you come here, you can actually say that, okay, I need one server or two servers for my use case. So once you scroll down, you see EC2 instance, and you can see that you have like 241 options. And if you look at this is actually saying that based on your input, this is the lowest cost EC2 instance. This is for T4G.nano. This is the lowest cost EC2 instance, as you can see. So when you choose this instance, you can see that the family is for T4G. It has 2V CPU. The memory is 0.5 gigabytes of memory. So once you actually scroll down, you can see that, okay, like the lowest, like it said, is T4G.nano. The CPU is 2, the memory is 0.5 gigabytes. The network performance is up to 5 gigabytes. So the storage inside that server is ABS volume, right? For the on-demand cost, if you actually like go for the on-demand, like I said, you have to like pay as you go. It will actually like on-demand hourly cost is $0.005, and this is actually saying that potential effective cost saving, hourly cost savings, when you actually like make use of cost savings, like I said, when I was like taking us through using cost savings, and like I said, you have to like make a cost commitment of either 1 year or three years. So can you see the pricing that is far different? See, if you actually go ahead with using cost saving, it will actually save you 62% of this on-demand 0.005 hourly cost. As you can see, you have so many options, right? Based on what you actually need to do. Okay, so once you come down here, you see that there are different payment options. This is the reservation time, you can actually reserve for a 1 year or 3 years. Let's assume that okay, you want to like just pay for 1 year, and it is actually going to like save you so much compared to you using on-demand servers, which is actually even more expensive. And also, you can actually see sports instances. This is actually saying that okay, the historical average discount for T4G.nano is 70%. Can you see that it is way cheaper than you using the likes of compute savings plan or EC2 instant savings plan? So when you actually like make use of this, but the limitation with this is that this can be taken away from you at any time. So once AWS is in need of that server, it will just take it away from you. So that's the problem with you using spot instances, like I said. So once you select this, right, you just have to like come down. Maybe you have other requirement that you want to like select. Maybe you don't want to like use the story that you want inside that server is something very different. Maybe you don't want like a general purpose SSD. Maybe you want HDD in your server. You can actually select this. So for the sake of this presentation, I'll just like go ahead and like just use all these default options, right? So what you actually need to do is to just save and add service. Okay. As you can see, right, we've added that EC2 server, right? So once you want to like see, once you have added all the services that you have in your architecture, what you actually need to do is like, okay, let's assume that we've added our Amazon EC2 and we actually need an S3 bucket. You just do the same thing, look for S3 buckets, and add that S3 bucket. You select your story class based on what you actually, how often you be accessing the files in that S3 bucket, right? Based on what you have in your architecture, you select all the services all together, and once you are done, you come to view summary. As you can see that this is actually saying that this is actually going to like cost us $38.52 for 12 months cost. So when you select this server, it will actually cost you $38.52 for 12 months. So that is the demo I'll be presenting today. So I'll be going back to our slides. Okay, so thank you. So I'll be looking at the key takeaways for this presentation. So the first one is start small and scale as you grow. Like I said, you don't have to like provision a server that will actually like meet the demand of thousands of people, hoping that okay, maybe your business will actually get there someday. Obviously, it will get there someday, but for the sake of maybe for today that you are still having maybe very few users coming to your application, making use of your application. So you have to like start small and scale as you grow. So once you implement the AWS auto scaling group, like I said, it will help you to like scale as you go based on your demand. And also a second key takeaway is you monitor usage and implement cost saving strategies. I've walked us through several strategies while taking this presentation. So when you implement all these cost saving strategies, it will help you to like be able to like carry out cost optimization on your workload. You'll be able to like monitor your usage and implement cost saving strategies. Like I said, maybe all these strategies are very complex for you because obviously you are not in the industry and you're not an expert in making use of AWS cloud or maybe any cloud service provider. But once you engage us, we help you implement all these cost saving strategies and even more, right? Based on best practices, right? So you have to like understand that you must monitor usage and implement cost saving strategies. And also is you leveraging managed services and cost-effective tools, right? I talked about managed services. I said that, okay, for the managed services, like the serverless, you actually have no business managing the underlying infrastructure because the cloud service provider will actually like do that for you. So once you make use of all these services, it won't give you any issue of you managing all these underlying, like you patching servers, you doing this, you doing that, like you might not have like the technical skills to do all this, right? So you have to like leverage managed services. When you actually leverage managed services and you make use of cost-effective tools, you'll be able to like understand how your solution is faring, what this resource is costing, what that resource is costing. So those are the key takeaways of this presentation. So next slide, please. So it is time for me to like take your questions. If you have any question for me, you can actually like go ahead and ask me. So this is time for me to take your questions. So thank you so much for joining this webinar and for for joining this webinar. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Bushid Adams. We're so great. So that was such an insightful session. Um, Currently now we'll be taking questions. If you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A session. But for now, we have few questions for you, Mr. Bushid.
Okay,
The
please go
first
ahead,
is,
sources.
thank you. The first is, how can startups identify the right cloud services to match their needs without overcommitting to resources?
Okay, that's a very important question. So thank you for that question, sources. So what I will actually say to that is that I don't know if you were like when I was taking the part of you using architecting with a solution architect. Like I said, it is very important for you to like engage a solution architect, an expert that understand different services, right? So when you have engaged a solution architect, an expert solution architect, and understand how all these services work with each other, they'll be able to help you make the right decision in you selecting this service for the other service, right? Because obviously it is not something that you can easily do because there are so many considerations you have to like look at. So I was like telling us about you like deploying your maybe your database or your files in an S3 bucket. I was saying that there might be so many legal implications in you like deploying or putting your files in this S3 bucket or in this region, because it might not like it might be against your government regulation saying that okay, for the data of all these all these of my citizens, right? I don't want you to like go and put it in maybe there's like let's look at the case of America versus Russia, right? Maybe they are like they are against each other. They are in maybe they've been having economical war, and you want to like go and put the data of your citizen in a region that is in Russia. America might not allow that, might not permit that, might actually say that no. But so when you actually like engage a solution architect and experts like CIL that has so many solution architects, so many cloud engineers, they'll be able to like tell you that, oh, you must not do this, you must not do that. So for all this consideration, they're also going to like look at costs. Like I said, you using the AWS pricing calculator to actually like say that, okay, this is the cost implication of you using these several services, right? So it is very important for you to like engage experts. So that's is what I'm going to like answer to that your question. So sources, I believe I've been able to like answer your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Well, the second question is, how should startups approach security and compliance when using cloud services, especially on budget?
Okay, what I will actually say to that is that okay, cloud startups to making use of looking at compliance and security. What I will actually say to that is that when you make use of these cloud service providers, there are several resources, services in this cloud service provider that will actually meet your security or compliance requirements. So maybe you have like different security requirements for your own business use case. There are several services that you might even not know of, right? That was why I was saying that it's very important for you to like engage experts, because obviously you don't understand how to make use of all this. You might not understand how to make use of all these services for your own business requirements. But when you engage experts, and those experts will actually that experts will actually like put together in-house solutions that will actually help you meet your business requirements. For compliance also, there are several compliance, industry compliance. Maybe, okay, in your business, what the compliance that you actually need is actually going to be like different from another business, right? So when you actually like engage experts, they will actually tell you that, okay, for compliance sake, this is what they are going to be using for you. So that is me answering that question. So I believe I've been able to like answer that question to your satisfaction.
Yes, yes, you have. You have. Thank you so much. And the last question, what
Okay.
are startups' most common mistakes that lead to unnecessary cloud expenses?
Okay. So let me say this again. Like I think I touched this when I was like taking my presentation. I said I walked us through the common pitfall, saying that okay, it doesn't actually make any economical sense for you to like have servers. You deploy your resources, hoping that okay, maybe in the next 6 months you'll be having maybe thousands, millions of customers, and what you are having today is just maybe very few customers, right? So it doesn't actually make any sense. So you have to like avoid this pitfall of you using over provisioning resources when your what you should do is that okay, based on what you actually you're having today is what you should actually like set up today, and you have different automation tools that can actually achieve that. I actually talked about you making use of AWS auto scaling group. We help you to like increase your resources based on demand. So you should avoid the common pitfall that I actually walk us through, saying that okay, don't over provision. You should like your resources should be based on what you're actually using. So that is me answering to that. So you should avoid all the common pitfalls when you are actually like deploying your application on the cloud. So yeah.
Thank you very, very much for answering that. And thank you for the insightful session. We're really, really grateful. Now, I'll be taking us through the takeaways that we have. Now, you have to take this opportunity in order for you to get support from sales. And as a result of this webinar, just as a little gift to our attendees, we have a free one-on-one consultation with our cloud experts, whereby just like Mr. Moshida said, you might not necessarily have all the technical know-hows and know what to do in order to optimize your cloud, but you can reach out to us in order to give you a free one-on-one consultation whereby you tell us what you need or whatever problems it is you're currently facing, and then we would offer you the best option. And secondly, you can also get a free access to the AWS digital training, and this is exclusive to all the attendees of this webinar. Getting the free digital AWS training, you will be able to learn at your own pace and as well get certifications for it. And lastly, if you want to get started in tech space or upskill, you can enroll in our CIL Academy program. What is the CIL Academy program, you might ask? The CIL Academy program is actually an educational initiative by the Secure Intelligence, and it's designed to provide training and development in various technology domains. It's actually focused on equipping learners with in-demand skills to thrive in tech industries, ranging from beginner to advanced level. This is zero to techie. Now, and for the zero to techie, you would have hands-on program as a beginner that you're aiming to start your career in tech. And we have courses like front-end engineering, cloud engineering, and others. And the courses are actually tailored to industry needs and they ensure relevance and employability. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. We look forward to see you in our future webinar. Thank you very much.